Good morning everyone. Welcome to the Autodesk Vehicle Tracking for Architects, Structural Engineers and Designers webinar. My name is Stephen Ellis. I'm the Civil Infrastructure Senior Technical Specialist for Autodesk in ANZ. Before we get started with the webinar, we just have some ground rules. Any questions you have throughout the webinar, please type them into the questions dialog box that you have in your GoToWebinar panel. I'll answer your questions via email as soon as possible. Okay, let's get started with the workflow. So here we have our car park model in Revit. So our first step, of course, is to export this to a DWG. So here we can see the base import from Revit now in AutoCAD Civil 3D. To assist in visualizing the design, it's best to change your view style to shades of grey. So we are now ready to create our Civil 3D surfaces. So the next step in the workflow is to split up the designs into the individual floors. Once we have our designs separated out, we can start to create our Civil 3D surfaces. Using the Create Surfaces tools, we name our new surface. This new surface is now available to explore in the Prospector tab. So let's now add the drawing features that will make up this surface. Note here that the Revit features all come across as polyface mesh objects. First up, we can add the main floor. So I'll next add the ramp, but you will notice some errors in the surface. Civil 3D needs to have a vertical face defined around the ramp edge first. To do this, we will need to add some break lines to the surface to define this new feature. So here we are adding these lines. And now when our ramp is added, we get the correct definitions. So here is our finished surface with both ramps added. We are now ready to add our swept paths to the project. Now we have our Civil 3D surfaces, we can place turn paths and lock them to these surfaces. We first need to go into the Autodesk Vehicle Tracking settings, browse to the Surface tab, and set the surfaces to the desired floor. We can now place our designed vehicles on the surface and drive our swept path. Once finished, we can orbit and see we have locked this to the Civil 3D surface. So selecting the path, we can move to the animation panel and using the camera angles, find a good vantage point to play the simulation. So next we will look at adding a ground conflict report. So once a swept path has been placed, we can select that path and add a ground conflict check. Once assigned, we will be given the minimum gap found between the body and the surface, a graphical hatching of that clash if displayed, and also a section through that conflict is created. So this is how simple and easy it is to bring your Revit designs into a platform that will allow you to analyze your models against design standard vehicles in a 3D environment. When setting out a parking lot, we want to maximize our number of parking lot spaces while still maintaining something that is operationally functional. Autodesk vehicle tracking contains the tools you need to optimize the layout as well as maintain a geometric standard that you can set with respect to bay width, driving aisles, and handicap spaces. Editing options are available as well, as you can make changes to the layout. You see the dynamic nature of the objects as well as the adherence to the design standards. Plus, you can define your own standards or check your designs against the ones that ship with the product. Note that the Australian and New Zealand standards AS NZS 2890.1 and 2890.6 are available. So with our preliminary parking layout in place, we can now go back and adjust our layouts via the on-screen grips. So we can stretch the rows, add skews, adjust the bay aisles direction on screen and get immediate visual feedback. I'd also like to show you that Autodesk vehicle tracking is not just about road vehicles. We have mobility scooters, hospital beds in the vehicle lists, and the list is already over 1,000. You can of course create any custom vehicles you would like. So let's look at how we can create a swept path for a mobility scooter from an entryway and navigate into some of the examination rooms in this hospital. And finally, let's look at maneuvering a hospital bed through the emergency entrance and into one of the emergency rooms in this hospital design. So as you can see, it's not just about road vehicles. It can be used internally for architectural purposes as well. So let's have a quick look at some of the standard Autodesk vehicle tracking tools and workflows. The vehicle library in Autodesk vehicle tracking ships with over 1,000 vehicles, as I said before. It has the relevant Austroad standards dating from 1995 to 2013. It also includes the AS 2890.2 for the vertical clearance envelopes. The simple workflows produce 3D visualization based on true proposed geometry early in the preliminary design stage. Here you can see how easy it is to lay out the swept path for a single unit truck, and we can very quickly see that there is an issue with our design. The truck is mounting the curb. So with AVT being used in conjunction with AutoCAD Civil 3D, we can very quickly and visually fix up our design. Here we're just going to be using all of the on-screen grips to start to edit our Civil 3D model. And because we have the Autodesk vehicle tracking swept path in place, we can see very quickly once our design now meets this swept path. The vertical clearance command allows you to check vertical profiles for vehicle clearances. This will allow you to check if your vertical alignment curves are long enough to cater for design vehicles. We must first make sure that the vertical exaggeration for the profile is set to natural, i.e. 1:1. This is easy with a Civil 3D profile, as it is just a toggle in the properties. No need to export or create additional profiles. So we select the vertical clearance button from the ribbon, then select the Civil 3D or AutoCAD profile to drive along. AVT will generate the vertical vehicle envelope for the entire length of the project, or until it reaches a point where the vehicle physically impacts the alignment. We can come back and insert vehicle outlines into the simulation to enhance AutoCAD documentation too. So Autodesk vehicle tracking lets us display our swept path analysis in a variety of unique visual styles. We can display things from construction lines, body envelopes, hatched bodies, clearance envelopes, sight lines, profiles, and turning graphs. Autodesk vehicle tracking allows us to control every facet of the analysis for precise documentation, including changing elements such as layers, colors, line types, and hatching, etc. So in this example, I'm going into the vehicle tracking Explorer and turning off the hatching for this path, using the redraw button to display the changes. We can turn on and off the body outlines. We can change the envelope style, such as layers, colors, and line types. We can adjust both the forward and reversing movements separately. We can add visibility sight lines with the click of a button. We can control the details of these sight lines to ensure we are getting the correct visuals. We can also use the speed of the swept path to control the sight lines. You can set these all up to your organization standards and have that profile saved. So we can also insert a profile and a steering graph associated with the swept path. These are dynamic, so will change as the path is updated. Okay, so that's the end of the presentation. Before we finish up, I'd like to make you aware of the upcoming webinars that you can register for at the link below. So we have coming up, what does augmented reality mean for the AEC industry? So on Wednesday the 30th of November. Navisworks for civil engineers on Wednesday the 7th of December. A concept to collaboration with the Autodesk AEC collection, Wednesday the 14th of December. And home builders making the move to 3D BIM on Wednesday the 18th of January. So again, if you'd like to register for any of those, please go to the web address that you have there. So we also have some additional resources here. We have our ANZ YouTube channel. I'll actually be uploading a recording of this webinar there shortly. I also have the link there to the Autodesk Vehicle Tracking Overview page if you would like to find out any more information about Autodesk Vehicle Tracking. And you also have my contact information for email, LinkedIn and Twitter. So please feel free to connect with me for any of your Autodesk Vehicle Tracking or any civil infrastructure questions you may have as well. Okay, just a reminder again, if you have any further questions, please put them into the questions area in your GoToWebinar panel, and I'll make sure that I get your answers to your questions via email as soon as possible. Okay, thank you everyone for your time, and I'll talk to you next time in one of my next webinars.